Okay, good morning. I got a very beautiful presentation from corporate communications. I spare you the who knows Zalando. I'm Philipp, with the company for longer than I ever imagined to be there. I've done about everything. I actually did ERP system integrations, after which I thought, so that was a great project. Let's do that again. But it's of course also a different environment, rather on the left side with the circle with core and with data and tech at the core. So I got this beautiful presentation. I'll likely go a bit rogue. I want to share a bit on how we transition from being like you're a run-of-the-mill e-retailer to a nascent platform. But I think most of the learnings we had are also applicable when you start at zero, or when you actually start to think about transitioning another enterprise or a company from the right side to the left side. So from a product-driven or a service-driven company towards a tech-driven company. So I guess the core thinking is more or less the same. For the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'll likely talk very little tech, more product and strategy, but I'm very happy to then dive deeper into tech when we've got time afterwards for your questions. I think it's a lot more valuable for all of us if I rather answer what you think it's interesting than whatever we thought might be interesting for someone from our behemoth glasses point of view. So how to build a platform? When we looked back at let's say the first 5 to 6 years of Zalando in 2015, after the IPO, and thought, okay, now we've actually achieved what we never thought could be achievable. When looking at us, but also when looking at the market, and after we went public, we said, okay, what's next? What's our new blue ring of ambition? What do we want to do next? And we had a very close look at the assets we're having, and thought of, okay, how can we further drive the transformation of especially the fashion industry or the fashion retail business. And that's basically also where I think what's the starting point if you think about a platform. When you think about platforms, they're fundamentally different from B2C or B2B businesses. When you've got these traditional A to B businesses, you in the end always you have a customer, and then you have yourself, and you position yourself, you create hopefully the best offering ever you want to create for the customer, and then you make it attractive for the customers to buy. When you think about a platform, when you think of, after you figured out that you want to become a platform, of course, you're moving into a different world. In a platform world, you have two sides you have to cater to. And I guess that's quite obvious. You have, of course, customers, and on the other hand, you have the partners you want to bring together with these customers. And that means, in the end, you can't really control both sides of the equation. In a traditional A to B business, you control one side, and then you hopefully get enough customers for what you offer, and you can always adapt to that. In a platform world, that's really different. In a platform world, what you have to do is you have to create the right incentives for partners to deliver the proposition you've envisioned towards your customers to make the whole thing work. That's harder than your traditional A to B business, because you can't really force people to do anything. You have to think a lot more of how can you incentivize people to do what you want them to do. But on the other side, and I think that's where it becomes a bit philosophical. If you think about capitalism, and I guess you can think about capitalism in very shades of gray, very few people would, I guess, say it's entirely great. Very few would say it's totally bad, or maybe that's even more. Those on the white side. But you can think in different shades of gray. But I guess what you have to acknowledge is that capitalism is actually quite well in keeping up, because it addresses to the inner drive of everyone to be successful. It enables a lot of different players to be successful. And what you do in a platform business is actually directly leveraging this inner drive. You create the environment where a lot of different people want to be successful, especially on the partner side. And if you do this right, they can be a lot, they can create a flywheel that's a lot bigger than what you could create internally by doing all, for example, retail all by yourself, because they will have a lot more ideas. They will move, or they will start with to go into competition with each other. And then the best ideas will succeed, and not just the ideas of those who cry the loudest in a corporate environment. And it always struck me as a bit of a weird thing that in capitalism, the largest players are actually planned economies, and with the platform world, you're changing that. And I think that what makes platforms as is extremely, or at the core, extremely interesting, but at the same time also makes building them a lot harder. And this is very close to what we did over the years. It's just one of the examples we were looking into. What we usually start is when thinking of the business. So we have a running business. How would we approach turning this into a platform? We have to rethink the business. We have to dissect it in its parts, understand the different needs, and then understand how they work, how they interact with each other. And it's then under the bigger headline of how can we ensure that customers actually understand what we want to do, and on the other side, also make sure what we do is catering to customers, is really fulfilling a need and not just a fad. So this is a very, of course, polished example. But I think, especially from a product point of view, and it's nothing new to you, I guess, you really have to go out there and understand what your customers do. Not just look at, of course, all your great tracking you have on your own premises, and do your user labs or your user lab testings, but you also have to go out there and really understand what's happening in markets. What's happening with YouTube influencers? Why are all the 12-year-olds or 7-year-olds? My 7-year-old daughter actually is a huge fan of Bibi's Beauty Palace, and refers to her to get her hipster hair knot. She taught this herself based on a Bibi's Beauty Palace YouTube video. That's just something that's not really natural to, I guess, me and a lot of other people in their 30s. But for her, at her 7-year-old, it's totally natural to go to YouTube and learn about this stuff. So we have to go where our customers are and understand their needs there. Simple example here, customer spots something on Instagram. So this is a cool outfit I've seen here, or the cool sneaker I've seen on Farrell's Instagram account. We as a company, we can of course say, okay, it's this specific super color sneaker from Adidas, and it costs X. That's maybe a bit useful. The customer now knows what this is. But next, the customer actually, if the customer already expressed their interest in this specific shoe, they might also buy it. And then we can say, okay, the customer says, okay, the blue one is great. How can I get it? And then if you think about this from a traditional retail perspective, we would say, yeah, we have 75 on stock. We send them to you in the next 1 or 2 days. You can pay by credit card. But the world evolves. Alex just showed us the cycles are getting shorter and shorter. Customers get there, and especially due to Amazon, get their expectations rise a lot. A lot of you, I guess, ordered already from Prime now. That's extremely fast. How could we as a company keep up with that? We have a huge, I guess, after Amazon, the second largest logistics footprint in Europe, but it still takes 6 to 12 hours to get something from our new warehouse in Lahr or warehouse in Mönchengladbach to Paris. If a customer expects this to be delivered in 30 minutes, how should we do this? What we could do in that case, and that's where we now turn into a platform. How can we deliver on what the customer actually wants, this now, without building warehouses everywhere? We can get partners to do this. And that's really understanding what's the customer need, in this case, getting something very quickly, and then you can start building your platform business around that. A platform goes further beyond that, because in the end, you're creating an ecosystem. You're not just having maybe the small boutique that's delivering something, but you could also integrate someone else who gets something from the boutique to the partner. And that's something how rethinking your traditional business model you've learned over the last years, and you've perfected, and you've invested hundreds of millions of euro into creating your own logistics networks. You have to rethink that, because it might not be able to fulfill on what the customer actually wants. And if you rethink this throughout the process, you come up, if you really think hard enough, you come up with a lot of these platform use cases. Now, that's great. We came up with a couple of use cases where we say, okay, we have now this local delivery. We could create this local delivery network. Someone else could deliver stuff for us from someone else who is also not with us in the company. And in theory, that's great. But then, as you all know, the hard work is actually implementation. It's not getting the right ideas. And so when you then have to move deeper into building this platform. What's important, and it's also why, the title was a bit long, but I think the most important word in there is sustainability. Of course, the cycles of the whole industry get shorter and shorter, and we can't plan for something over 10, 15 years. But if you take a step back from the technical implementation, if you think in business models, if you think in dynamics of business models, you need to take a longer view, or you need to have this longer horizon to create something that's not only working once for getting people hooked off, getting people, for example, together, but that's also working in the long term. A nice example I've always liked to use, and I know the people running these cleaning service platforms quite well. So I hope there's someone from Book a Tiger or Helpling or so in the audience. I excuse beforehand. If you look at these platforms or these marketplaces, they're great for initiating a transaction. But if you think about sustainability, if you think about your own flat, just look into or think for a minute. If you think about your own flat, would you like to have another cleaning person every other week? Likely not. You want to build up trust. You want to build up trust that people actually are in your flat while you're not there, with all the valuable possessions and memories and whatever you have there. You need to build up trust. So these marketplaces are great for the initial initiation, but in the long term, it's very difficult for them to build up the business model, because it's actually in the interest of both sides, the interest of the customer to have someone for long term, but also in the interest of the cleaner to get a long-term assignment to work directly with each other and to circumvent your platform. And that's something where you have to think about a lot about how can we build a platform business model where not only the initial contact, but also the sustained business relationship is only possible through our platform, because we are solving inefficiencies in the markets that are maybe not solvable by a single company, because we provide the whole, it's called conversation or transaction, or the lifetime business relationship between a customer and a partner with additional value they cannot create. If you think, for example, of data at the core, we, of course, with having hundreds of thousands of transactions per day, we can provide everyone with a lot more and a lot deeper insight, a lot better tools, but also a lot more context to run their business in the right way. And the platform, as I said before, you always have these two sides. You're the enabler at the center, who should, from my point of view, really focus on creating this long-term sustainable relationship to ensure that it's actually a business for you and not just a lead generation model. And then you have customers with all their needs, which they actually can fulfill also elsewhere, usually. And partners on the other side who also have very clear business needs and business interests. Let's have a look at customers first. Whatever you build, and I think that's crucial, and some platforms don't get that right, but the successful ones do. The rogue ones, for example, if you think about Uber, actually do this to an extent where it's not healthy anymore. They put customer satisfaction first. This goes, or the reason, the rationale goes by, this is actually where money comes from. If you have enough customers, if you have enough demand on your platform, the rational commercial players, the partners, will compete to fulfill this demand. So it's important to ensure that you have an ongoing, a steady, strong, growing customer demand. And to get that, you need to put customer satisfaction first. In our case, and that's of course where we try also to differentiate from an Amazon. I guess quite clear that this is our most important or most dangerous competitor. We try to have a very clear proposition that's different from Amazon's. We try to be, let's say, to address more the upper half of the fashion market, to be fashionable, to be on season, to guarantee that whatever is sold on our platform is fresh, is actually not fake. It's and it's something where if you buy it, you're not making a fashion mistake per se. This overall proposition is directly catered at the needs of our customers. What we've learned over the last years, what we learned through a lot of user research, we believe that this is our key differentiator and the key success factor for the next years to in the end get customer satisfaction. And that's what's at the core of what we do, why we put customers first, to rebuild the strong position in the marketplace. And then on the other side, you have all these players who, of course, if they see that demand is there, that they can earn money there, they participate in the marketplace. But what you want to achieve if you build a platform is that your partners participate in the marketplace in this whole platform for a longer time. One of the key success metrics is actually, are customers investing into your platform? Are they investing their money, their teams, their time into being better on your platform? This is, if they start to do that, and if they really start to compete on your platform, that's then initiating this flywheel where you through competition among the partners, you can really build something that's great and that's actually geared towards making your customers happy. To do that, you have to do a couple of things, and that's, in our case, especially sharing the expertise. Over the last years, we've built up great expertise in doing fashion e-com or fashion e-retail, and lots of, especially brands who participate in our partner program, are like a bit behind on that, or most of the brands at least do. And thus, if we want to spur this flywheel and make it turn faster and faster, we need to make sure they have all the information at hand to actually work as, if you look at economic theory, these well-informed players in the market. And that's where a lot of the investment we're doing is going into, is ensuring that partners have all information they need to do the right pricing, to build the right assortment, to know what's selling well, what does not sell well, which customers to address, tools to further increase their visibility or their audience amongst customers. Reinvesting into that helps us to kick this flywheel off. And that's one part. A second part, and this now relates back to the first thing, to what I said about customers. Whatever we do there in helping partners to become better on the platform is also a great tool to incentivize them towards behavior we want to have, towards this customer proposition. Very simple example, if our visibility algorithm does not only factor in what sells really well, but also says, okay, it needs to be from this season. It needs to have customer, if you want to be higher, it needs to have customer reviews above a certain threshold, or you likely have smarter algorithms like that. But build into let's say, into everything you provide the partners with, including the visibility you grant them, this incentivization mechanism to make them do what you want to do. And that's a soft way of controlling what others do. And I'd like to refer back to what I said before. In these platform businesses, you don't have that much control. But what you can do is create an environment, create the right regulatory framework for people to operate in, to do what you want. If you show them how to be successful, and make this also quite transparent, if you expect, okay, if you're shipping faster, if you're answering customer demands faster, that's giving you more visibility, that's helping you to succeed in this marketplace. This is a great tool to make sure you deliver on the overall proposition, even if you cannot do this through, I don't know, telling the team in logistics to ship a bit faster or investing more into that. And then at the core of this, you have your platform. This is where then tech comes into play, where all these more conceptual models are implemented and turned into, or where actually the flywheel hinges, and where you make sure that things go into the direction you want them to go. What's important here, from our point of view, and I think that's something also companies, if you look deeper into how Amazon behaves, how marketplace merchants on Amazon are steered, you always want to make sure when thinking about a platform business that you are access to this whole ecosystem, not only today, but also for a longer period, so that people understand this is great. It's great to participate in here and to do my business here, because it's actually helping me to be more successful. I've got more insights here. I've got more customers here. I'll get and I understand better how my behavior actually could be improved. If you build this directly at the core of your platform, you make sure that you enable data-driven decision-making for all those players who actually can't do it. And that includes companies like Nike. They are on the they're on the right-hand side of what Alex showed before. They are a great company, but they really struggle with digitalization. And if you show them that through an ecosystem you build, they can learn that, they can become better at that, they start to invest into that. And that's something you need to build deep into the core of how you build things. Of course, you don't know, or we all likely don't know, how user interfaces will look in 2 years. Will it be a lot of augmented reality? Will it be these devices we have standing everywhere, and will it be voice? But the core, what's I think 125% sure is, at the core you'll need a lot of data, and you need to move fast on the data you have. You need to turn this data into first information, and then second into knowledge about the different players, and re-leverage this knowledge. If you move fast there, and if you do this with rigor, you can actually get so much, let's say, ahead of all the players on your marketplace, that they over time will invest more and more and create, and you actually create lock-in. I don't believe in locking in customers in an e-commerce world. That doesn't really work on as a hard level. You can of course do it through something like Prime, just by addressing to your laziness as a customer, but it's also some kind of a soft lock-in. You can though create some really strong lock-ins on the merchant side. And if you make sure these merchants stay with you, invest into you, you're then having this as the driving force of your overall flywheel. And in the end, you all know, in e-commerce, assortment and having the right assortment is one of the key ingredients we need to have on our shops or platforms. And this is, of course, driven through these partners who take place in your market, or who participate in your marketplace. Now, all that said, what's important to be successful? And I guess that's, to make it short, there are 2 things. First, and I think that's really important, stay true to the proposition you've set out. Really make sure that whatever happens on the platform is actually driving the overall flywheel, and it's helping you to become bigger and not, let's say, linger left and right and then lose focus. Stay true to the proposition you want to set out for the customer, and ensure that everyone is following that. And then, of course, if you're a company like ours that's a bit older and not starting at zero, leverage what you know well. We know tech quite well, we know logistics quite well, and we know fashion quite well. Leverage what you know there, try to get the most of it, combine what people do, move into setups where people collaborate, let's say, beyond the silos you have usually in a larger corporation, and ensure that they, within your company, can work in an entrepreneurial way, and then you have at least a recipe for success. It's not a guarantee, I guess that's quite clear as well, but at least you have an idea. To go a bit beyond that, what we are currently doing is to take this platform approach also, I mean, over the last years, we've announced the platform, we've built some of our smaller ventures, and some of you might know Fleek or Movement, or the Lounge is actually also running on the core platform. However, that's of course only the first step. What we're now doing as the next step, and that's something that's only applicable for you if you're, or relevant for you if you're really in a larger environment. What we are starting to do is really create competition within the company, between teams. Say, I don't know, we have multiple teams building wish lists, and they just run, and we see then through. We put both out there for the customer and understand also through market mechanism what works better. Those let's say features, for example, that work really well, get more visibility, and then we'll know over time. So that's I guess the next step. If you also think about your company as in the end a society where everyone competes with each other in a of course friendly and collaborative way, but where you move beyond alignment and discussions on how the great things should look like, and instead just build them and see what works. That's also, as I said, just works if you have a couple of thousand people, but it's, I guess, the next step. So without further ado, that's the short rundown on how we approach this transition to a platform. And as promised before, what I'd like now to do is rather go deeper into your questions, likely also how we implement it. I hope it's relevant for a couple of you. Yeah, so shoot. All right. I guess I talked you a bit to the wall, as the Germans would say. Anyone interested in, I don't know, do you, I could also give you some more high-level insights on how the technical stack looks like. I was asked to do that, but as I said, I'd really rather like to do it along your questions, but I give you another 1 or 2 minutes to reconcile. Yes. Okay, the questions, I guess I just repeated, I don't know, for the video. So the question is how we give brands the opportunity to participate in the platform. We've actually for about 3 years, we are running the partner program that's at the share is about close to 10%, between 5 and 10% of business we already run through the partner program. Until now, in the earliest, they've just been integrated as in other dropship scenarios. So they added the products to the platform, we merchandised them, we gave them visibility, and then whenever there was a sale, we just exported to their system. What we are now, since about 9 months, roughly, doing with them is to give them actually access to the same tools we are using. So they have, for now, access to the same merchandising tools, also to set pricing, and we share a lot of data with them so that they understand where they are. The next step now is to really ensure that to separate, let's say, to separate the playing field from our own business. Let's say so. Today and this is of course quite detailed, but today we've got the fashion store, we've got a category management merchandising team that is running the whole assortment, and is also managing partner business to some extent. And now, since a couple of months, more closely with them, but they are still managing the overall assortment. What we're now doing, and that's quite far already, and will of course not be really visible for the customer in the first place, but for brands it's quite a huge step. We separate, let's say, the playing field and the tooling you need to merchandise whatever you have on the platform, So the products you put out there, visibility, investments into visibility. Let's say you want to you have a couple of products you want to push, then you can pay for that. And we separate this in a way that our own business, our own retail business, is operating by the same rules as these partners. And I think that's crucial if you want to move into a true marketplace or a true platform model, that you don't have a, let's say, a platform that's also doing their own business plus these partners on top. But you say, I've got my own business and the partners using the same tool set to run whatever business they do on this platform. And that's in the end building tools that are then available, like in the end internal tools. They of course need to be beefed up a bit, or usually made a bit simpler but more beautiful, and then also provided to all players. And I think from my point of view, it's crucial that this is the same tool set to ensure you have this equal chances for everyone. Otherwise, competition is not that likely to kick in. Okay. Yeah. So the revenue is actually the revenue model is a bit more. It's simple, but it has multiple pillars or multiple columns. There is first a commission model for any sale you do, and then there are on top options to improve your performance in the marketplace by. So for one side, you can invest into additional visibility. So that's also known as advertising in the end. And what you also can do is you can, there are a couple of value-added services you can book, but that's a model that's, I would say, is over time shouldn't be a key pillar because it doesn't scale that well. So that's but the model is actually, it's rather simple, and also easy to understand. There's another, but it's very fashion specific, since we've got, I mean, I guess you all know, return rates in fashion mail order have always been quite high, and in fashion e-com they're even higher. These return rates make it very difficult for companies to sell lower price points at a commercial viable level. So let's say you want to sell t-shirts online. If you sell them for, I don't know, €9.90, and you pay for the whole logistics. I mean, only for DHL sending it out and getting it back, you can, I don't know, let's just assume €4, because you negotiate it very well. Then some logistic costs. It's quite clear that this is really eating into your margins, and this is not really viable to sell something below 30% with a return rate that's, I don't know, on average 50, but on very specific items it can be a lot higher, of course. What we are doing there is using, for these cases, our logistics network, and then providing the partners with the possibility to sell or to ship their stuff from our warehouses. So they stock their products in our warehouses, and then we ship from our warehouses using our rates that are a lot better than, I guess, everyone else, then except for 2-3 companies in Germany, but also the very large scale logistics operations where the unit costs are extremely low, and then they pay for. We of course earn some margin on this model as well. So that's something where in the future I expect this to be, especially for those brands who not having a physical retail network, will be the, let's say, the dominant model, because it makes the unit cost just a lot more attractive. For those with a physical network, this is of course more interesting than over time to send from their warehouse, their stores, especially in 30 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour delivery windows. Yeah. So if you look into it today, we're actually quite rigid. So we expect very high standards. Or in the end, over time, we also the standards won't diminish over time, or won't be less over time. But the approach we're taking today is a very controlled approach. So when partners put their stuff into the platform, especially pictures and article information, and also the articles themselves, today they're actually controlled. Every single picture is checked before it goes online. It's a bit in a mechanical Turk approach, but it's very rigid control. We want, or we will change that to a model that's more, I'd say that's checking after you put something online. So you get a lot more freedom to put something online, but we'll then use more algorithms to determine whether your pictures are great or not, whether your article informations are great or not, and sufficient. And this will then feed into how much visibility you get. Then you're basically that's in the end the question of scaling. I mean, of course, what we do today is great to create a consistent level of quality, but it doesn't scale really well. I mean, this partner onboarding takes quite long, so it takes days for assortment to flow through, and just because every single item gets checked. That would be, of course, a lot better if you just pour stuff into and then learn what, as a brand, and learn what works and what doesn't work. What we do not control is things like prices. So that's something the brands entirely control themselves. That's not so much of a problem anyway, because the brands actually, they like to sell for the black price, or for their own suggested retail price. And most of our partners are actually brands themselves. It's actually reversely, or sometimes it becomes a problem if we really want to sell off things, or if we want to create big commercial events like Black Friday or Easter sales or something like that brands are not that willing to chip in and also reduce their stuff. But that's and also their freedom. We have to find some kind of a model there over time to also create the right incentives to move forward. I guess if you think about these models, if you want to scale, at some point in time, you have, of course, have to think about first about sustainability. How can I create a model that's really viable in the long term? It makes sense for us, being this hinge point of an ecosystem. But you always have to think, at least after it took off, you have to think about how can this scale, and then very likely you'll move from these very controlled systems into systems where you create incentives. Take Uber's weird pricing models as an example, where, I don't know, on Christmas Eve, you as a customer pay 4 times as much because they just need to create the right incentives for drivers to move into the system and to not spend any time with their family but drive. Right. Yeah, I mean, today we're having 2. We've something as fulfillment by Zalando, very imaginative abbreviation, FBZ. That's the, let's say, the more premium model, and partners ship themselves. Most of the brands we're working with are actually using other 3PLs for shipping. I guess that's also makes a lot of sense, but also makes their incentive to move into a model like ours, where we then take over their 3PL business, makes it quite rational for them to do that. But they're in the end, and then there's of course the local delivery stuff. So we do this in, oh, don't quote me on that, I think 8 cities where we ship from selected local stores of our brands. Adidas is taking part in that, and a couple of others as well. That's then the third option, but it's very, very minor as of now. Yeah. Yeah. That's the tale of the last 3 years of my life. some of you might have heard of radical agility, and this, I mean, we put out a great buzzword there. But at the core of it, it's the belief in if we make sure that teams can operate as small autonomous units, and most importantly, they understand what to do, and then also they take accountability to do this and take ownership, that they should, at least in theory, be able to move a lot faster. In practice, this takes a lot of learning, especially if you have such a huge, diverse, and an international team as ours, because you're then also struggling with a lot of, or you have to educate a lot of people, and it's a difficult process to learn that. But I think it's the right model to just ensure. A bit I said before, to say, well, we're not a large company that's where everything is very meticulously controlled, and then there's some senior manager who's telling the mid-level managers what to do, and then this breaks down, and then the mastermind at the top knows how all the little cogs in the gearbox are working. But to say rather, so this is the direction we want to go, and these are let's say what we expect from teams or business units, so their KPIs, and then have them, let them run against it, and let them compete with others, let them make their failures. And accept that you can't, if you want to be really high velocity, you can't control it. It's just too difficult. And it's just too difficult to get everyone to do what you think is right. And then additionally, everyone's brain is limited to an extent. If I'm at the top and I have this great idea what everyone should do, I very likely do not have the best idea. So it's more important to ensure that everyone can really contribute and that they also compete with each other for the best solution for what's really great for our customers. So the first step forward was radical agility, and now we're moving even stronger. And that was just in tech to create these autonomous engineering teams. And we're now moving a step further into integrating everyone you need to deliver on a certain topic, proposition, part of your business, so from the commercial side, operations, tech, into small units that then operate entrepreneurial. It's, from everything we've learned so far, the best model. Whether it works, we'll see. But it's the most difficult question, I guess, we have. In the end, there's also something, when you think about what Alex told us about the digital organization versus the analog ones, whenever you think about your own work and about your own teams, usually the opportunities in front of us and the market potential is huge. The market favors these digital businesses. We are in the end running the transformation, the transformation, this digitalization shift in the society and in all our industries. But in most cases, the most likely breaking factor are ourselves. And to really ensure that we as teams pull together, like everyone in the team pulls together, delivers towards the vision, finds the right things, not only, I don't know, about what always worked or what's obvious, but things beyond that, and you come up with the best solution, or with at least with a great solution, not just what was obvious in the first place. That's I guess the biggest challenge we all have. That's very obvious at Zalando, but also because we are. I've never worked in a company that big, and so if you do, it becomes very obvious. But I think it's also applicable to smaller companies. On different levels, the teams themselves have what we call service level objectives, but it's of course technical service levels, but also KPIs they're looking after, and they're monitored through monitoring systems. We use AppDynamics and Scalar for that, and we also use these rather technical systems for a lot of business monitoring, and that's the very operational level. Above that, so to ensure that all the teams work into the right direction, we have a rather, I mean, it's transparent and straightforward now, but creating was very difficult, a KPI tree that's really trying to break down the overall business model into what every team contributes. Building that is extremely complicated. Also, not just, I mean, building a KPI tree isn't that complicated, but ensure that, or mapping this to what are the teams contributing to it, and also isolating this to an extent where teams can actually own part of a certain KPI. That's very difficult. But after you've done that, it's very helpful because teams, through that, when you also, of course, believe that you did the right tree, or you came up with the right tree, but through that, teams understand quite well what their impact is. Works great in theory. In practice, it's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Couple of approaches. We work with partners who are building like small size, mid-size ERP systems. There's one approach that's giving you at least good good stock levels, and works for the more professional partners. You always still have the problem that stuff gets stolen, stuff gets lost in physical stores, and you don't find it. But it's something you can work around with probabilities. At least for, let's say, for the next 1 or 2 years, the more promising model is a bidding model, where we say we take an order, and we know from, let's say, to not go into too much detail, because I don't know how much we announced this publicly yet. We have a tool running where there are a lot of retailers, or smaller retailers are registered, where they voice their interest in certain brands or certain products from brands, or their interest to sell these. So that's not a commitment, I have the stock, but if a customer would like to buy this, I could sell it, potentially. And then whenever we get an order in, there's some probabilistic model in there that says, okay, so if you look at the larger network of these local stores, we probably have one of these, then we put out the order there, and then someone can take it up or not. If not, then we will fulfill it. That's, of course, for now not. So through that, we are today not able to tell you will for sure get this within 30 minutes, but it's the first step into that, to get a good understanding of the local stock levels without actually integrating with the stock levels. So it's more turning this into a bidding market. Yeah. Yeah, it only works, so this model only works together with the third part, with delivery organized by us. So not making you walk there, but making sure the stuff gets delivered to you from somewhere. That's at least the customer experience there is, at the moment, it works really well, because it's usually, it's more a surprise for customers that stuff gets delivered on the same day. We're not yet on let's say, we don't have a confidence level in the models yet that we can actually promise you before you buy that you get this today. But that's just the evolution that will take place over, I don't know, a year or two, when the network becomes bigger. But that's, I guess, also how you have to start if you build these things. First, understand the mechanics, and then go deeper into perfectioning it and iterating on it. Welcome. Okay, then thank you very much. I hope you have a great conference and learn a lot more in detail and in depth how we can lead this transition further. It was great to be here. I hope you took something away. If you yeah, if you have any additional questions, you can either chat me up now or also write me. It's very simple. It's just first name dot last name at zalando.de. Yeah, and I think my first and my last name are on the program or on the agenda. So thank you very much, and have a great day.